Review, demonstration, and installation of the Arisaka Offset Optic Mount. I'll also show point of view behind the optic. The optics in use are the Trijicon ACOG TA02 and Aimpoint T2. This is the best offset mount separate to your primary because it gives the most options. It allows for mounting in the 35 or 45 degree position. 45 degree gives additional clearance around wider turrets. 35 degree for slimmer, smaller scopes and optics. Both degree positions maintain alignment with the bore, which is important for zeroing and so you don't have point of impact issues. They have different plates for any optic you want to mount and two different heights depending on your primary optic mount height. Since the ACOG is a 1.5 mount height, the standard plate is best for a consistent cheek weld and transition between the optics. If you have a scope mount that the optic can be mounted onto it, that is usually better. It just depends where you want the optic to be placed. With the standard plate and base, it weighs 1.9 ounces, and with the tall plate, it weighs 2.2 ounces. It takes 3 Picatinny slots and it has 2 recoil lugs. The base sits 0.18 inches above the Picatinny rail, made from 7075 and 6061 T6 aluminum. Arisaka manufactures some of the best mounts. Costs $125 for the plate and the base, which I think is reasonable. Slightly less rolling of the rifle in the 35. 45 is still comfortable and there's not much movement regardless of which degree you're in. Each plate will come with the optic screws and the 2 screws that secure the plate to the mount. Base comes with 2 long screws to secure the degree to the base, and then you should get some Torx bits with those as well. These are special 27 and 20 IP Torx bits, so they're a little different than your standard. First, I'll start out by taking the base, and then this is what changes your degree. When the square and slanted edges are on the outside, that is the 45 degree. When both of those are faced inward, that is the 35 degree. You'll want to add thread locker to all of your screws. Unless you are mounting an Aimpoint T2, you will not add thread locker to the optic screws. The Aimpoint T2 uses helicoil threads that look like silver springs, and if you add thread locker or over tighten it, these can strip out very easily and then you won't be able to mount your optic. For the 2 long degree to base screws, I'll add some blue medium strength thread locker. Since I have this faced in, I'm in the 35 degree. I will turn this over. Using the 20 IP Torx bit, I will thread these in. If you have a torque wrench, these will go to 30 inch-pounds. I'll start with the standard plate. I'll put that square inside of this one, push it on until it's flush. Add some blue medium strength thread locker to these, drop them in and get them threaded in. These will also go to 30 inch-pounds. Once they get threaded in most of the way, you want to go back and forth on the screws until you hit that torque allotment. You'll do the same thing with the T2 or your optic. You're going to align that square with the notch in the bottom of the T2. Line them up, make sure it is flush on all sides. I will not put thread locker on these screws. You'll drop in all 4 screws, and you have to be very careful tightening these because sometimes you can't get a torque wrench in there. So if you're doing it by hand, you always want to go in an X pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you want to make sure that you are getting equal rotation and equal torque on the screw. These helicoils are very easy to strip out. Make sure you're not going over 12 inch-pounds. 10 inch-pounds for the T2 is a safe rule. If you do it with an Allen key, you can very easily see how much a quarter of a turn is. If I go about like that, that was about a quarter of a turn, and then you would do the other a quarter of a turn and go in that X pattern. The Allen key is easier to see how much rotation you're actually putting on that screw. Take the 27 Torx Plus, and I'll go ahead and unloosen the base mounting screw. Pull a clamp out on the other side, then I can hook it in to the Picatinny slot. Make sure that I'm pushing the mount towards the clamp, so when I'm tightening this screw, the clamp isn't pulling the mount a certain way. I also want to make sure that the optic mount is pushed forward, so I want to be holding this while I'm tightening it. The rail clamp will be 50 inch-pounds. Add some thread locker to the clamping screw. In the 35 degree configuration with the standard plate, you can see a slight issue it's causing on being able to access my battery compartment, or at least get some type of tool in there to unthread that. Now you could use some pliers to unthread that, but getting a flathead screwdriver in there isn't going to be super easy. I was able to slightly get a flathead screwdriver in there. This isn't something that most people are going to be carrying in the field, and it is also scratching up the flathead portion. With the ACOG mounted all the way at the rear spot and the Arisaka mount all the way at the front, I am able to just barely be able to pull that out. So this is somewhat capable to still access the battery compartment, although it's not ideal, especially if you want this on tighter or if you have your ACOG slightly up farther. Just barely able to get that out, at least with this optic and in this configuration. If you're only doing hand tight on the battery compartment and you can turn it with your right hand, this still could be an option for you. With the standard height plate and the 35 degree configuration, the battery compartment is slightly taking a very small edge of the glass on the Aimpoint T2. This is definitely still usable. The red dot on the camera is focused on the aimpoint T2, so you can see how much of the glass is being taken out. The dot is not actually that blurry, but when I have it about as centered as I can get it, you still have about 90 to 95% of your glass. If you have your battery compartment screwed on hand tight, the ACOG is in the farthest position and the Arisaka mount is in the furthest position in the 35 degree with the standard plate. You still can just barely get out the Energizer lithium battery. If you prefer rolling and moving the rifle less, this is going to be most optimal. It's just a small negative in the battery compartment area. Still on the standard plate, this is in the 45 degree configuration. It hangs off to the right slightly more. For the battery compartment, I can get a long flathead screwdriver in there, no problem. Hand tight is pretty sufficient. Optic glass is also completely unobstructed. I can see it 100%. So this is going to require a little bit more roll in the rifle when you're transitioning between the two. And here, I'm going to roll over at standard plate height. It's going to match my primary mount height. I'll have a consistent cheek weld and transition when flipping back and forth between the two. Not using the lens cap on the back of the aimpoint T2. So in that 35 degree configuration, if you have that lens cap on there and you need to switch the battery, that could potentially get in the way. You could just swivel that around on that big point and you still might be able to get it out, or you might have to pop it off. However, you shouldn't really have to change the battery very often. If you're not using an LED battery powered ACOG, you will have no problems mounting the offset in the 35 degree configuration because you will not have this brightness dial and you will not have the battery compartment. With the models like the TA01 that are the fiber optic models, the 35 degree configuration will work no problem. Still in the 45 degree configuration, we are now using the tall plate for the 1.9 to 2.2 inch mount height. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to use it for this 1.5 inch mount height on the ACOG. Still unobstructed to the battery compartment, completely unobstructed to any of the glass. None of this is getting in the way. When you're transitioning, you are going from a smaller mount height to a taller mount height. So your transition is going to be slightly awkward trying to get your eyes position in a taller mount height. There's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. You're going to have to slide your cheek and face upward to get in the center of that dot. And then if you are to transition, you're going to have to come back down. This wouldn't be recommended. However, you can choose that if you are wanting your red dot height to be taller for closer targets. Tall mount in the 35, I still can access the battery compartment and pull the battery out. Tall mount with the 35 degree, none of my glass is obstructed. I can see completely through it. You're still going to have to adjust your cheek up and down when transitioning. Flipping it to the left side, tall plate in the 35 degree. No obstructions in the glass because the brightness knob on the left side is a little bit smaller than the battery compartment. Left side 35 degree and the standard height plate. This means that the left side is going to work in the 35, 45, and both heights. Demonstration to show how much I am flaring my elbow out and moving my shoulder. It's at the standard height in the 45 degree. So with the taller height, I will have to slightly lift up my head to see through the window of the optic. And with the 35 degree, I will just be rotating and flaring my elbow out less. When rotating, it's just a slight cant. If you see the elbow kick out a few inches, my shoulder is going to come out a little bit as well, mainly just this arm, but I'm going to switch and I am centered there. And then I will come back, switch, centered, back, switch. And I can do it less or more. It just depends how exaggerated you really want to kick that out. I can just barely move it. My elbow is still tucked with rotating the rifle, so you can just rotate the stock. You can kick the elbow out to keep your wrist straight, or you can just rotate the rifle in your arm. In the 35, it's just going to be slightly less. In the taller height, I will have to come up a little bit like that, come back down, come up, come back down. I've gone back and forth a lot between top mounted and offset with this build. Ultimately, I think I am going to stay with the top mounted because I can get a slight bit of cheek weld. For my purposes and the pros of the top mounted, even though the offset allows for a consistent cheek weld and it's very comfortable and fast flipping back and forth, having this poking out to one side and shooting with suppressors, having that ejection port right there also closer to the dot, it just makes me want to stay with top mounted, even though I don't like having not as much cheek weld and the increased height over bore. This is a great option for sure, but that's just going to show you the clearance you're going to get on both sides with the LED model. With the fiber optics, you won't have any problems. With your normal size scope, more than likely you're going to be using the 45 degree because the turrets on the right side are pretty big. If you want to see more videos like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help support the channel, and thank you for watching.